Karl Marx was a journalist, revolutionary socialist, economist, and philosopher born in Germany in 1818. He was a staunch opponent of capitalism and was responsible for developing Marxism, which has formed the basis of some truly overwhelmingly destructive political, social, and economic philosophies. The fundamental principle of Marxism is this: the capitalist state is responsible for perpetuating a system that encourages the wealthy upper middle class bourgeoisie to exploit the low-wage industrial proletariat in a class war. So Marx maintained that the proletariat must assume socio-economic control through means of dictatorship in order to create a classless and socialist societal order. Our capitalist system is based on the idea that the means of production rests in the hands of private owners, an elite few who control industry, factories, businesses, shops, and corporations. The people who work for these businesses have no say in how they are run and do not share any kind of joint ownership. Marx had a problem with this setup and believed it promoted inequality. Marx was convinced that only a workers' revolution could resolve this conflict and restore some semblance of equality. The result was a system known as communism, in which all means of production and enterprise would be owned by everyone. Marx also believed that modern industrial work was sterile, devoid of meaning and humanity, and alienating to most people. Because capitalism was primarily concerned with generating profits as efficiently as possible, work became highly mechanized and dehumanizing, where specialized assembly line labor required no individuality or personal ingenuity or creativity. Therefore, it was easy for workers to become disillusioned with their occupations and concerned that they could be easily replaced and made redundant if economic needs required it. In short, a capitalist system made people feel expendable. The primary gripe Marx had with capitalists was that their profits were in effect a form of theft. They did little to no real work, while their employees generated all of their wealth through arduous labor. This, he believed, was nothing more than exploitation of the labor class. His theories also proposed that capitalism was wasteful and produced overabundance and far more products than we could ever consume. Marx saw this as a sign that in a large and efficient industrial economic system, few people genuinely needed to work. This meant that the majority of people could enjoy more leisure time and shouldn't be concerned with the negative connotation associated with being unemployed. While a small number of people would toil tirelessly, the masses were free to enjoy their own personal pursuits. This sounds all wonderful and utopian in theory. The problem is, the system is even less fair than the capitalist system Marx criticized. This is because it states that those who contribute the most to society, work the hardest, and provide the most ingenuity are no different to those who contribute the least and hardly work at all. It also created societal and cultural stagnation. Marx also believed that marriage, a fundamental supporting structure of civilization, was oppressive to women and little more than an economic arrangement and a means by which the state exploited men and women. It's not hard to see how movements like feminism have their roots in Marxist doctrine. For more on this, check out my video, Marxist Feminism, Marriage and MGTOW, link below in the description. Marx's beliefs and philosophies weren't taken all that seriously at the time, but there were those who considered them revolutionary and avant-garde and sought to incorporate them into future socio-political structures. The cataclysmic failures of experimental socialist projects and communist regimes that followed provided unequivocal evidence that Marxist principles could only be sustained through planned economies, dictatorships, and oppression of the masses. The reason socialism is fundamentally flawed is that it destroys the meritocracy and fails to reward human endeavor and hard work. It suppresses and disincentivizes innovation and attempts to keep the best and brightest down to the level of the lowest common denominator. Free trade capitalist societies may not be perfect or even fully stable at times, hence the reason their economic collapses are so utterly devastating. But they do lift people from poverty and promote more freedom and personal economic prosperity. Just ask yourself, which country would you rather live in, North Korea or South Korea? Socialism requires a totalitarian level of government intervention to regulate every aspect of society. Capitalism does not. The historic record of Marxist philosophies is clear. They do not work and merely produce the highest levels of autocracy, censorship, social unrest, poverty, and starvation on the planet. Take your pick of nations who have attempted to adopt them in some shape or form. The Soviet Union, China, Cuba, the aforementioned North Korea, not exactly the utopian beacons of civilization they aimed to be. As Milton Friedman said, the most harm of all is done when power is in the hands of people who are absolutely persuaded by the purity of their instincts and their intentions. He also said, a society that puts equality before freedom will get neither. A society that puts freedom before equality will get a high degree of both.